Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion Throwing in the Towel. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug, and Throwing in the Towel is a weekly segment during the NFL season where every week I pick one team and throw in the towel on their season. Week 1 it was the Cardinals, week 2 it was the Bears. Who will be for week 3? Well, let's find out, starting with the AFC East. The AFC East, one team representing them this week, the New York Jets. And when will the Jets accept the reality that Wilson isn't the guy for this squad at the particular moment? Based on their offseason moves, they're in win-now mode. Even with Rodgers out for the season, the Jets can still make the most of their win-now window, specifically over an upgrade at the quarterback position via a veteran signing. But side note, Trevor Siemian is not that veteran signing that's going to fix your quarterback position. AFC North, one team this week, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Ravens may still very well be the class of the North, but the passing game remains inconsistent, and injuries continue to mount on offense. You can add Gus Edwards or Rashad Bateman to the list. The Ravens are a good team, but they aren't on the same level as the Bills, Chiefs, or Dolphins. AFC South, a couple of teams here, Titans and Jaguars, and there really isn't much to say about the Titans in that game against the Browns other than the offensive line got exposed. Myles Garrett and the Browns front bullied the Titans and owned the line of scrimmage. The run game never got going. The pass game didn't have time to get going. Andre Dillard looked like a turnstile at times. Whatever plans were in place didn't matter because the Browns had the physical edge. And for the Jaguars, it's not a one-week issue with the Jaguars or a one-thing issue. They're sloppy on offense, their defense has lapses, special teams has its own gaffes. It's one problem on top of another, including the fact that Trevor Lawrence isn't playing especially well right now. There's still time to turn things around, especially in the AFC South, but as things stand right now, this is not a good football team. AFC West, couple teams here, Broncos and Raiders, and Denver has surrendered 102 points in its last 7 quarters of play. Couple defensive woes with an offense that has only scored 2 second-half touchdowns through 3 weeks, and you have a panic-worthy situation. And the Raiders' offense has fallen short of expectations. They've invested over $101 million cap dollars in that offense, but they've yet to score more than 18 points in the game this season. Garoppolo's thrown for 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in 3 weeks. So your 4 representatives this week from each division: the East is the Jets, the North is the Ravens, the West is the Broncos, and the South is the Titans. Who will represent the AFC this week? It's the Denver Broncos. I mean, you lost 70-20, looking like the worst team in the AFC. Over in the NFC, starting with the NFC East, we have the Giants, Commanders, and Cowboys. And through 3 weeks, the Giants have had a scoring offense and defense that ranked near the bottom of the league. Moreover, Daniel Jones seems grossly overpaid of his new 4-year, $160 million contract. Though Jones has rushed for 170 yards and a touchdown, he's only thrown for 2 touchdowns versus 4 interceptions. And for the Commanders, well, to put it bluntly, Sam Howell was bad against the Bills. Not entirely his fault. The offensive line got abused to the tune of 9 sacks, but Howell also threw 4 interceptions in the game. And for the Cowboys, well, the story of their game against Arizona was the red zone, or more appropriately, their failure in it. The Cowboys would make 5 trips to the red zone and only have 1 touchdown to show for it. A Dallas defense that had been dominating the first 2 games allowed 400 yards of offense and 222 yards on the ground. NFC North, one team this week, and that is the Vikings. So just about everything that could go wrong has for the Vikings. Their -7 turnover differential is tied for the worst in the league. The Vikings are once again a dumpster fire on defense, allowing the 7th most yards and points per game after ranking 31st in total defense last season. NFC South. So last week I talked about the North being the worst division in football. Well, that has changed now with the Packers and Lions getting some wins. Now, exiting week 3, entering week 4, the South is the worst division in the NFL with all 4 teams losing. And for the Panthers, it's not surprising that they are 0-3. They have a new coach, a new quarterback, and a less than opposing array of passing game weaponry. Also, losing Bryce Young for the time being hasn't helped their maturation process either. Derek Carr had a solid start to his Week 3 outing, but he didn't finish the game because of a shoulder injury. And on a sour note, the Saints didn't score any points when Jameis Winston took over in place of Carr and squandered a 17-point lead. Winston won 10-16 for 101 yards. However, New Orleans will welcome back Alvin Kamara from suspension, which bodes well for a somewhat struggling offense with only 4 offensive touchdowns in 3 games. For the Falcons, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier are both quality running backs, but if the opposing defense can either stop the run or force the Falcons to match scores, Atlanta just doesn't have the passing attack to win games. And it's not just the team is without weapons, but the offensive line isn't great, and Desmond Ridder is an average quarterback talent at best. If the Falcons hang around in the NFC South, that's more of a reflection of the division than the team. And for the Buccaneers, more than any game previously this season, the pressure from the Eagles defense got the picture of Mayfield, who was unable to keep his escape artist act going. He went 15 for 25 for 146, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, while taking 2 sacks. While his receivers frequently let him down with bad drops, Mayfield was seeing ghosts on the field by the second quarter and was missing open receivers. And in the West, we have one team here, the Los Angeles Rams, and Monday night was a reminder that while the Rams have been competitive, they aren't especially talented. The offensive line in particular is a major area of concern. The Rams may not be terrible, but they aren't good either, and something about being stuck in the middle might just be the worst place to be. So your 4 representatives for the NFC divisions, the Giants in the East, the Vikings in the North, the Panthers in the South, and the Rams in the West. Who is representing the NFC this week? That would be the Carolina Panthers. So you had the Broncos in the AFC, the Panthers in the NFC. Who is the team, this week's team? Who will I be throwing in the towel in on this week? It's the Carolina Panthers. Now I know the Broncos seem like a more obvious choice given the fact that yes, they did lose 70-20, but I'm not about the obvious, so we'll just go ahead and stick with the NFC and kind of weed out some of the bad competition in the conference. And really, when you compare the NFC to the AFC is the better conference this season. I think that's pretty much true. And for the Panthers, they're 0-3, and not much was really expected for this team other than just move forward. Showcase why you traded up to get Bryce Young. So far, Bryce Young hasn't played great, but it's not entirely on him. He doesn't have the greatest supporting cast. He's got some talent around him, but I don't think it's enough to. I don't know if it's going to be enough to help him achieve greatness this season, but ultimately the goal is simply to have Bryce Young establish himself as the guy at quarterback. So far through 2 weeks, hasn't quite done that, but there's still time in the season. Granted, an ankle injury is not going to help matters by setting him back, so regardless of how the season turns out for the Panthers, I don't anticipate anybody losing. I don't anticipate quarterback, coach, or GM losing their job. And with that will conclude this episode of NFL Discussion Thrown in a Towel. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.